So when I was asked to come and give the keynote to a bunch of genius people and people with hearts of gold, I was like, what should I talk about exactly? And so they always say, and I just heard William say this last night, talk about what you know. And I thought I'm going to talk about living intentionally, okay? And I do have a story within the last 6 years that does support how this is ever present in my mind as well. And I do need to maybe warn everybody, this is my 4th keynote presentation, but it's the first time I've ever brought a knife with me. So, stick around until the end and you'll understand what this knife is for.
Yeah, stick around.
Oh yeah! That was not planned, thank you. You can tell the comedy stage hypnotist. I can do that. So, but you have to stick around for the end to hear that. All right, so what I want to share with you today, so Huda, thank you so much, passed around these little square pieces of paper on your table. And if you haven't already, take a moment and just look at these 3 questions on your table. And this is intended to just be kind of rapid fire. You're going to read these questions, and somebody, someplace, something, some event is going to pop into your head immediately, probably for every question. And so if you want to take a moment and scribble it down, you can. But otherwise, I know you have it in your head. So I do want to ask a couple of people, if you don't mind, share one of the answers out of these 3 questions, if you could. You're nodding your head. Do you have one you want to share, William? An answer to one of these 3 questions?
Number 2, I miss my father greatly.
What do you miss about him the most?
We used to talk daily.
Okay. Thank you. Yes?
I also miss my dad. He's incredibly optimistic and supportive.
Optimistic and supportive, your dad. Thank you. Yes, Jeff?
Tony Robbins helped me feel empowered when I was at a spot where I didn't want to continue.
Ah, love it. Yes?
So,
Felicia, right?
yeah.
Okay.
The person who helped me the most when I was down was my best friend. And she just listened to me. She accepted me for who I was, and she made me feel safe.
Love it. Love it. Anyone else care to share?
Is the question on personal or on the business or the...
Anything.
Okay.
Anything. No rules. So, with no rules, do you want to share anything?
Sure. On the personal level, it was a connection with somebody in the Dominican Republic. It was a very spiritual few months experience. And on the business side, my mentor was Gil Bourne.
Oh, nice, nice. And how did they make you feel, both of those?
Peace.
Oh, peace.
Found peace.
Love it. Okay. Yes.
Number 1 would be my parents, and they made me feel like I could do anything.
Love it. Yes.
So I like yours about the 2, actually, because I just got married in March, and this man makes me feel like a whole person in so many different ways that I'm accepted in every way. And the other person, and then the other person that really made a difference in my life was my NLP trainer, Bill Thomason, who taught me almost everything that I know, to be honest, for years.
How did he leave you feeling?
Powerful.
Love
Yeah.
it. Karen, were you going to say something?
Yeah, my sister, mine is number 1 too. My sister, she helped me when my son passed. She helped me go through everything, the whole process of writing an obituary, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it made me feel incredibly peaceful and so alone.
Love it. Love it, yes.
1 and 2 actually happen to be the same person, and that is my mother.
Yeah.
She was an incredible nurturer, but having a lifelong illness, she was always there helping me move forward.
And now how did that make you feel?
Right now, happy.
Love it. Yes.
My husband, we've been married for 38 years.
Congrats.
And he has helped me because he believes in me on every level all the time. And and like anything, you've always got it, no matter what, always.
And how does that make you feel?
Just like a rock star.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. Yes.
Spoon right here and 3 active service. Before we get the therapy on me, I was completely resistant to it. Many years of chronic pain and anxiety.
Wonderful.
She makes me feel
Makes you feel what?
like I'm a wonderful man.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you very much for those that shared. I'm glad that you did. So I wanted to do that because even though you all obviously had different stories, at the end of the day, at the root of everything was how that person made you feel and still feel to this day. And I also heard time. People gave you time, or they're giving you time. Okay? And so, isn't that a way possibly of living intentionally? Thinking about the time we give to people as well as how we're going to walk away knowing how we make them feel. So, that to me, that's living intentionally. So I heard Father a couple of times, so I believe I've always been aware of this, paying attention to how I operate and what I do and that type of thing. But nothing brought this to light for me except for almost 6 years ago. My dad was dying of cancer, and we all know cancer sucks. But the only good thing about cancer, because there is a good to everything. So to me, the good to cancer is that it gives you time. It gives you time to say goodbye. And that's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing. And so my dad, it was his probably last couple of days on this earth. And it was, the last time his big, beautiful brown eyes closed. And it was the last time we heard his beautiful voice. But they say hearing is the very last thing to go. And so, believing that to be true, if anyone knows me from Facebook, since 2011, I have been every night on Facebook writing down 5 things I'm grateful for. So since that is second nature for me, I asked everybody, and we had everybody, it was my mom, my siblings, in-laws, and all the nieces and nephews. We were all sitting around Dad, and I said, hey, let's all go around the room and tell Dad everything we're grateful for. Oh my God. That lasted an hour or 2. And it was fabulous. And the stories that were told and the laughter. My dad was the biggest jokester in the world. So to know that he got sent home with laughter in the room was a beautiful gift. Because in those 1 to 2 hours, we all felt the gift that he gave to all of us. So what a gift we gave to him to send him home. But there was a couple of things of note with that. They were all the small, everyday details of life that we were talking about. Yeah, there was a couple of moments from when we went on vacation or something like that, but those moments would have happened even if we weren't on vacation. And so I think that's a little bit of my point too, is remember those small, everyday details to life, because those are what make up your life. And that came true with Dad. One thing I do need to say, and that's why I have that little picture of the barn, my dad and my grandpa, they both were farmers and they were seed corn dealers. And I guess I like to think about all the seeds that my dad had planted throughout his life. And just what an absolute beautiful thing. So those were the last couple of days with Dad. But then when it came time for his visitation and funeral, I think people call visitation something else. Awake, right? Awake, yeah. I grew up calling them a visitation, so sometimes I'm like, I better clarify that. Anyways, so what ended up happening it was in January when he passed away, and it was negative 20 degrees in northern Illinois. And despite the weather and icy roads, like just tons of people came. And so that just let me know the impact that his intentional living put on everybody else in the world. And the stories that were told, they were amazing. But the one thing I will never forget, there was a guy who was my age, okay? And he came up to me in the receiving line just crying and crying and crying, sharing all these beautiful stories about my dad that I didn't even know half of them. And then his parting words to me were, I never knew a 77-year-old man would be my best friend. And that was so touching, right? So what ended up happening was just the stories that people told, and I just thought they were absolutely amazing. And it touched me. And I kept thinking to myself, you know, he's my dad, how do I not know these stories? But it made me feel good knowing that the love he gave us, he sprinkled all throughout the world, which was wonderful. But at that moment, that's when I realized that I, as morbid as this might sound, I want my children, when, you know, we go to that next chapter, you know, the role reversals, I'm dad and my kids are me, I want my kids to be awestruck. I want my kids to hear beautiful words like that I got to hear from my dad. So almost 6 years ago, that was when that was cemented into me. How am I living intentionally? And then that's why I wanted to start this with the cards that I handed out, because it gets our minds working. Who's touched our life? Why? How? And they were simple moments, everyday phone calls. I mean, a simple act, but yet you're going to remember that until you pass on. And that's just a beautiful thing. So when I think about my dad, about how, you know, his intentional living, and maybe he was a farmer by design, who knows? All I do know is he had the gift of gab. So when he was a seed corn dealer, just to walk around and just sell seed corn and talk to these farmers all day, I'm like, wow, I don't know anyone other than me and all of us in this room who are so perfect for the job that he had. So anyways, but he lived authentically. He was an authentic individual. And I love this phrase, and I don't know if he's ever really said it, but this is how, like, living under his house, how it always made me feel. And it's look after each other. And I just think that's a beautiful thing. And always about bringing our best self forward. So one story I do want to share really quickly about my dad, just so you can get a little idea of his humor, and then maybe too a little glimpse of the little shit I was. So I grew up in Polo, Illinois, dinky little farming community, 2,600 people, and everybody knew everybody. I'll leave it at that. So I have been driving since I was probably 9 years old. It was my aunt and uncle who lived a couple miles away, and grandma and grandpa lived right next door to them. And so often dad would be like, hey, I need whatever, go down to grandpa's. Okay, how am I going to get there? It was either my bike or jumping in the flatbed Ford, true story. And so I really had been driving for a very long time. So I remember this. I was a freshman in high school, so I was probably 14 years old. And I had a girlfriend spending the night. And mom and dad went out for the night, which was kind of a rarity. But they went out for the evening, and Lenore and I, we wanted to go to town, because, you know, going to town is a big, big deal. And so I'm 14 years old, and I'm like, let's get in the flatbed Ford, let's go. And we lived down this really long gravel lane, and all of a sudden we see headlights coming over the hill. Well, we lived out in the boonies, and so, like, nobody drives down that road except for us. And I'm like, shit, mom and dad are coming home. So what I decided to do was I turned off the lights, and I was going to do a quick U-ey in the cornfield. Well, this was December, and I remember it was December because I was worried about being grounded, so I couldn't go out for New Year's Eve, my priorities. And so I shut off the lights, did a big old U-ey in the cornfield. Well, we had just gotten snow, and it had melted, so it was nothing but a mud fest. Well, of course, I wasn't thinking. So I get that flatbed Ford stuck. There was no getting this thing out at all. And I was like, oh God, I'm busted. But isn't it funny? I was just gonna drive to town at 14. What was I doing? But anyways, but this is my parents. So hours later, they come home, and my mom, I just hear her come in, and she slams the door, and she says, Connie Jo, you stupid ass! I still hear her like, you stupid ass! And then my dad follows her, and he's just belly laughing. And he's laughing because he's like, her dumb ass got caught. That's like the best thing in the world. And so anyways, I just had to tell that story because it just is just how my dad was, and just miss him to pieces. So, anyways, why am I sharing this with you all here? Other than to mess up my mascara. But why am I sharing this here? I'm sharing it because, as I said earlier, I mean, we are all probably and hopefully living our dream life, working our dream job. At least I hope so. I know I am, and I know several people in here personally, and I know you feel that very same way. And I look at this influence that we have, not only in our lives, but in the lives of our clients. And that is something really to be taken seriously. Back when I worked corporate America, I have a 30-year history with corporate America, and I was fortunate. I'm going to say fortunate. I was fortunate to almost always have direct reports. I took that responsibility seriously. Think about, when you have a boss, your boss comes home with you, and you're sitting around that dinner table, and you're either praising your boss or you're mofoing your boss. It's one of the two. And I wanted to be that boss that, that was a good conversation around the dinner table. So I took that very seriously. And because of that, I take my work in my community and with my clients very, very seriously as well. So with our influence, it's obviously with us as individuals, that really goes without saying. It's within our households. And right now, I'm an empty nester. It's just me and my husband, but still, two very important people in the house. And I always want to pay attention to our energy. We've got critters, dogs, cats, ducks, and chickens. So I want to make sure that our energy is positive for everyone around us. But also as a collective in the world, a collective. What is our influence that we're making on the world? And then with our clients. And I also like to remind people that we are all leaders. I think a lot of times people think a leader is that CEO with the big title and the big fat salary and the corner office and that type of thing. We tend to think that those are leaders, but every single one of us sitting in the room, we are all leaders ourselves. And to remember that. And I'm going to share with you some 5 exemplary leadership qualities that I was fortunate to learn long ago in my corporate career. And I'll share that with you in a moment. But also, I think all of us just coming into this type of a career, we're here because we're servant leaders. We have a helping heart. Otherwise, we wouldn't get into this work. And so operating everything from our heart and with that loving kindness is huge. And living intentionally. I want to keep coming back to that title. So the ripple effect. Here I'm going to talk about it with our clients. And I'm going to share a couple of things that I do with nearly all my clients. So if you guys want to commit this to memory or jot some notes or something like this, because I do a lot of these things with my clients and they really love it. And it's extra value that's being provided with everyone. So one thing I ask people is, because everyone comes to us because they have a challenge and they want to overcome that challenge. And so we all know the power of why, hence Simon Sinek's book, The Power of Why. And so why is very important. Why are you here? Why do you want this change in your life? To me, that why drives us. And we have to have that why. But to me, what I've been asking lately is, who are you going to become on the other side of reaching this goal? If you have a client that comes to you and they want to lose 50 pounds, 100 pounds, you're a whole different person 50 or 100 pounds lighter. So tap into that who you are going to become, because that why drives you, but that who sustains you. And so once I started asking my clients those questions, it was really, really powerful. And because I also like to say that whoever you're going to become, as you're working through that goal, you're going to start to embody the who, and then that's going to also help you to reach that goal. And so I also want to encourage everybody in this room too. We come to conferences because we want to learn and grow and evolve and stuff. And so we all have our why for being here. But once we hit our big milestone goals, who are we going to become once we reach those? So for me, I have a massive financial goal. And the reason I have it is because my who, I want to become a philanthropist like crazy. I already have 3 organizations dog-eared for where I'm going to give my money. One of them, and I've had this written for 2 or 3 years, one of them I already have my anonymous postcard written for when my money goes out. So that's who I'm going to become. I'm going to be a philanthropist once I hit my goal. So that's what drives me. And so I just encourage everybody to think about that for you. But also use this with your clients because it is really, really powerful. And you'll find a lot of people like, I don't know, who am I going to become? And so sometimes that pause is good because that lets you know that, that struck a chord. They're thinking now, that type of thing. So I also like to remind people the difference between goals and values. Goals are something that you want to achieve, but values are something you want to be. All right? Once a week, I go to a place called Wiss Hope, and it's an addiction recovery center. It's my lowest paying gig, but it's my favorite gig. I go because I love it. And these people turn over every 30 days, maybe 45 if they got an extension. And I do a lot. And once a month, I go once a week for a consistent workshop, and then I go once a month for a longer workshop. I was just there a week ago Sunday doing a workshop on values. And so I asked everybody, who here has values? Maybe a third of the room raised their hand. And then I said, okay, well, even if you do have values, we're going to go through this exercise to identify your values. And then I asked a couple people to share. And then I asked them, though, I said, I want to challenge you, though, with loving kindness. I want to challenge you and ask you, are you living your values? Because if you are not living your values, they're not your values. And so one person in particular, he gave me permission to bust his balls a little, but his number one value, he said, was family. But yet, when he explained what he was doing before he came into the addiction recovery center, he didn't come home at night because he was in the bars. And so I said, is family then really your value if you're not home with your family? And this isn't to blame, shame, judge. It's none of that. It's a learning moment because you either need to adjust your values for where you are now, or if family somewhere deep in your soul is your value, dig that thing up so that then you allow your family value to drive you home at night instead of to the bar. So, and to me, values are not the placard on the wall. Oh yeah, these are my values. Because they sound good. I just learned actually the other day, I never knew this, but Enron, their number one value is integrity. Integrity, Enron. That is such a beautiful example of I call BS. You are not living your value. So I wanted to share that here, but I have an ebook to help people. I also have it in my book too, how to come up with your values, because I just think they're so important. The other thing I share with clients, and I actually did a workshop. I'm a board member of Family Services, and Family Services of Southern Wisconsin, and they provide services to a number of agencies, domestic violence, sexual abuse, that type of thing. And so I gave a workshop on leadership. And the timing was perfect because I was sharing it with them to let them know you are a leader in what you're doing. And it was great timing, divine timing, because the one person went out to one of her clients and she was talking about how she really wants to become a leader in her household and how it would help her and her kids. And so this lady was immediately able to share this with that lady. It was great. So, as I said, I'm very fortunate in that I used to work corporate America, and this is where I learned this. And it's called the 5 exemplary qualities of a leader, and I love it. And yeah, please write this down. The very first one is model the way. Every single thing we do in life, we are modeling the way, and to remember that. The second thing, inspire a shared vision. You know, this one might be easy. easy to do a corporate America thing, but you know, if you have a big goal to reach or something like that, you want to get everybody on board. You know, this is where we're going, this is why we're going there, this is how you're going to help, and you really create that inspired vision. The third one, challenge the process. Challenging the process is huge. Because it's when we challenge things, that's when we, don't they say that the best inventions have come from something in your life that was just the biggest pain, and you're like, ah, and that's when somebody invents something. And so in a way, you're challenging the process. The next one is enabling others to act. Allowing people that time and space to be what they need to be, to do what they need to do. And then the last one is encouraging the heart. I love that. So model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage the heart. And once you guys do these every day. I just know you do. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. So, but I trust that you guys do this every day. But once you hear these, you're going to pay even more attention to them. Just because I have a moment, I'm going to share one more story with this, just to share with you how we use these every day without thinking about it. So, and I learned these, honest to goodness, probably 25 years ago. So one of my absolute favorite corporate jobs, I worked for the American Academy of Dermatology. And I was an assistant director of community relations. So basically my job was to go out into the community and tell people who a dermatologist is and why you need one. So I did a lot of work with skin cancer, and then also, best program in the world, we ran a program called Camp Discovery for children with severe skin disease. And you know, with skin disease, like if I have a kidney issue or something like that, you guys don't know, it's inside of me. But if I have a skin disease, damn, I'm wearing that. The whole world can see. And so these kids, I just loved it. They would get off of the bus in Minnesota and they would be all bundled up. It's in the middle of summer, it's so hot. They would, you know, head to toe, hoodies on and sweatpants and everything, just because they were covering themselves up, because that's what they do in their hometown. But by the end of the week, they were running around with shorts and tank tops because they didn't care. Nobody cared, because everybody had something. So I always have to give a plug for Camp Discovery, I love it. Anyways, okay, so when I went to camp, I got such a high, because it was just such a beautiful program, and my kids knew this. And so that high would literally last me probably for the rest of the year. So my daughter, I get home from camp, and she's like, hey Mom, she said, I'm glad you're home and all that stuff. She said, let's go out for dinner. Wow, okay, yeah, let's go. So we're sitting around the dinner table, and she shares with me, she had just graduated high school, that's an important fact, because this was July, so she just graduated May, June. So we're sitting around the table, and she says, Mom, I'm pregnant. And I did that, and then my head dropped. And then when my head dropped, I was like thinking 9 gazillion thoughts. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then, but immediately I was like, and trust me, I wasn't saying model the way in my head, but I was like, okay, what are you gonna do? And she says, Tony wants me to have the baby and keep the baby. I said, okay, what do you want to do? Tony wants me to have the baby and keep the baby. And I said, okay. I said, you know what, Morgan? I said, in this life, you know, we have 3 choices with us. And I said, I'm going on a business trip next week. I said, why don't you come with me? And while I'm at my business meetings, you can roam around, stay in the room, whatever you need to do. But I really think you need to be taken out of where you're at. Just go to some neutral place. And I really want to ask you, if you're open to it, to just think everything through. Think of all 3 choices, go all the way down the road with all 3 of them. And then whatever you decide, I am behind you 1,000%. And she agreed to that. So a week later, I think it was Kentucky of all places we went, but they had some beautiful river walks, so it actually worked out great. So I get I get back to the hotel after that first day of meetings, and she says, I made my mind up. I'm having him and I'm keeping him, and I would like to fly home tomorrow. And I said, okay, we'll call the airlines, we'll get you on an earlier plane. And she had Chase, the love of my life, who is 13 years old. So anyways, why am I sharing that story with you? I'm sharing it with you because, again, model the way, inspire, share vision. I was not doing any of those things. But as she was sharing a life-changing moment with me, when I dropped my head, that was my immediate reaction, so I'm being human. But then when I picked it up, I was modeling the way for how a good, supportive parent would be. Hence my dad, probably, right? And he supported me in so many ways. So right there, I'm modeling the way. Because if she's having this baby, I want her to see what a good parent, supportive parent would do for a child. Inspire a shared vision. Let's get out of town. Let's get out of the environment that you're in right now so you can think clearly and all of those types of things. And then some of these are kind of like really cinched together here. But challenge the process. Part of getting out of town is so that you can clear your head and challenge the process of what Tony wants. And I love Tony. They never got married or anything, but I actually just saw him at Chase's soccer game Tuesday night. So he's like a second son to me. So this is nothing against Tony at all. But it was still, let's get out of the situation and let's challenge the process. Let's challenge what Tony wants you to do. And then enable someone to act. That it was totally her choice, 100% her choice. And obviously I set the stage for that to happen. And encourage the heart. I was there with her 100%, and her and Tony, I have to tell you, they lived with me for the first, I think it was about almost 18 months to 2 years. And that's why Chase and I are just, so close, because I was so fortunate to have that time with them. So in that quick little story, I was able to use those 5 exemplary qualities of leadership. And so now that I shared them with you, and again, I know you're practicing these every day, but you're really going to become aware of them. So, but these are great things to pass on to your clients as well, to let them know you're a leader. Even though you're sitting in this chair right now because maybe something really heavy is going on, you're still a leader. And remember that and use those leadership qualities for yourself as well as your home, your work, those types of things. Again, the ripple effect. So then the other thing is, and there's a meme that roams around Facebook all the time on this, but the 5 people that you surround yourself with, hope I can remember this. The inspired, the motivated, the passionate, I'm going to remember, the grateful, and the open-minded. Those are the 5 people that we really need to surround ourselves with. What's the 3rd? Inspired, motivated, passionate, grateful, open-minded. Okay? And so I share this information with my clients as well. And sometimes you just say it. Sometimes we're planting seeds, right? We're planting seeds. Especially if you have somebody in your chair who might not be in the best relationship. Maybe we can just share the 5 people that we need to surround ourselves with. And that's beautiful. So, on that note, one other thing that I share with my clients is I introduce them to the 5 love languages by Chapman. What's his first name? Rob Chapman? Chapman is his last name, but the 5 love languages. So if you guys don't know the 5 love languages, and if you're in a relationship, read that book. It's amazing. It really helps your relationship. But also, I do, because there's an online quiz that's free. I give it to my clients, not all of them, but if it's going to be somebody I might work with for a while and really bring in my coaching as well as my hypnotherapy, I'm going to ask them to fill that out. Because I want to know, that person sitting in my chair, what's their primary love language? Because I will do things a little differently with them based on what their primary love language is. So if you're not already doing that, and I think it's just, hi Daryl, I haven't seen you yet, hi. So if you're not doing that already, I think it's just 5lovelanguages.com, I believe, and then you'll just see a free quiz. He actually has quizzes on all sorts of different things, but I just use that basic one for my clients. And then I introduce that to them. And then so many of them will come back and say, oh my God, I use that with my husband, my wife, and it was really helpful. So it's all these nuggets, right, that we're giving to our clients all the time. I don't know about you, but when I first started doing this work, I would have a client sit in my chair and they would be like, oh yeah, my therapist years ago told me this thing, and whatever the thing was. And I remember I always had a little pang of envy because I thought, oh, I want to be that person that for years, and not even my name, I don't even really care if they remember my name, I just want that person to remember something that I said or I shared with them. That really meant a lot to me. And so because of that, I really chock full and give my clients a lot of golden nuggets and a lot of resources that they can use in our time together as well as outside. Huda, Karen, and I rode up here together yesterday, and I picked up a phone call, and it was a referral, and we were talking and all of this stuff, and she wanted to see me today. And I'm like, no, not possible, just because she's starting a new job on Monday. So anyways, but as I was talking with her, and I knew I couldn't see her, for a while or whatever, I left her with a nugget. And it's something I'm going to share with you here in a slide or two. But I gave her this as a resource because I said, you know what, intuitively I feel that this quiz that I'm going to point you to, I think it's going to help you in the meantime until we can work together. And you know what, and even if she doesn't turn out to be a client, although she will because I got an email from her. So, because I was driving, and then I was just very upfront, I'm like, I'm driving. I said, could you send me an email? Anyways, so I digress on that, because now I have to remember to respond to that email this afternoon. And if I say it out loud, I'll remember it. Maybe. It's recorded. Sorry, totally digress. Lost my train of thought on that one. But anyways, so even if she does not turn out to be a client, I just gave her a valuable resource. That's beautiful. So the reason why I brought up the 5 love languages, my primary love language is words of affirmation. Okay? And it's not telling me, oh, you look beautiful, although that's lovely too. My words of affirmation are that recognition, that appreciation, that type of thing. And so, because that is my love language, and because I would love for all of you to apply this stuff, just so we remember it, here's my email on the screen. And if anybody is inspired, or motivated, if anyone has a calling, if anyone has a calling to share anything that you got out of today's out of today's presentation, I would welcome that immensely. And if you guys don't mind, I might even read some of them at the end of today's presentation, just to let you know what role we can play. And I'm sure everyone in this room, it goes without question, we are all 5 of these things. We are. But what one would you like to leave with today when I ask you to fill my cup of words of affirmation? Thank you very much. So, how do we get here and to really live intentionally? And how we do that is by having values. I said earlier, a goal is something you want to reach. A value is something you want to be, all right? And so when we can really think about that, a value is what we actually focus on. When we have a value, that is what we focus on. So just like the example I gave, it was hope. If he had that value of family in front of him, he would focus on his family rather than hitting the bar every night coming home. And he responded well to that, by the way. So I like to ask people too, because we always hear, what do you want to be, do, and have? I like to add give. But again, I have a philanthropic heart. That's why I have a big financial goal. But another thing when you think about values is who can you be? What can you do? What can you have? And what can you give? And so when we can think about things in those terms, that can also help lead us to our values, as well as help us to remember to live intentionally in everything that we're doing. So, and then setting our lives up for how we want to live them. So again, my dad passed away almost 6 years ago now, and really since, it took me another couple of years, but once he passed away, come hell or high water, I was doing my business full time. Because when I started, William Mitchell's my trainer, so after William trained me very well, but I was still doing it part-time. But I had a killer corporate job. It was a little hard to leave. But so it took me a little while to feel confident and secure to do that. But once my dad passed away, I'm like, oh no, I need to do this work full-time. And so I gave my all to make that happen. And some of the ways I was able to do that, and what I encourage you all to, if you're not already doing this, and I'm sure many of you are, but again, it's a reminder, is how are your weeks set up? Do you have your weeks set up that they work for you? When I first started, oh God, I was a time slut. I would see anybody, anytime, because it was all about getting the clients whenever. But, sorry. So, but now I don't do that anymore. I have set days that I see clients. I have set days that I do consultation calls. Are there exceptions I make? Of course. But for the majority, I have set days and times. This way, and then I have set days and times that I'm working, and I never remember, are you working on your business or in? I never remember the difference. But those days that I'm doing my marketing. So it takes time for girls to get ready. And I don't want to, and I'm pretty quick now, the older I get, I kind of don't care so much. But, because I know what the priority is, but it still takes time. So the days that are my marketing days, because I'm going to be shooting videos, I have a YouTube channel and just other things, well, those are the days I'm going to get all dialed up. Or the days I'm going to see clients, I'm going to leave a little bit of space in there so that I can take advantage of the hair and makeup and do my videos. But you know what? The days that I am going to be cranking out a new course or doing my finances or something like that, I always take a shower, so I'm kidding. But those might be the days I don't even take a shower and I put on the big old sweatpants. And then that saves me half hour, 45 minutes to work on what I need to work on. That's just an example, but it's about setting up your week for success. And that is an example about how we are making our life work for us. Because again, we're living intentionally. And we're living intentionally because we want to leave an impact and give value to our lives as well as everyone around us. And so that's why we do those things. And then also, I know sometimes, trust me, I did too, especially when I first started. Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel! And I was chasing all the squirrels and not gaining any traction. And then in coming to conferences, they're a blessing, period. They're a blessing. However, sometimes we can hear or see and we're like, oh, I want that. But sometimes that is smoke and mirrors. And so I always want to remind people, and this is why I come back to our values. What's important to you? What is important to you? I drive a 2010 Toyota 4Runner with a 0 car payment. I love it. I love it. That allows me, I see a number of clients, but it allows me to pick and choose because I don't have a $700 payment. But that's my choice. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's not indifferent. It's my choice because it's my life and I'm running it on my values and how I want to be intentional. And these guys got to experience my 2010 Toyota 4Runner that ran fine. So, I know you guys know all this, but again, it's worth repeating. But values truly serve as that compass of our life. Going back to that poor man at Wishhope that I utilize as an example, but that would be a compass for his life. Family's my number one value. Oh, that means I'm going to drive home. I'm not going to divert and go over here. Again, I already mentioned this with him, but embodying those values. They allow you to live an easier life. We can say hard no's and easy yeses. One example of that, if family is a number one value of yours, and if you have every Sunday 2 o'clock dinner that whoever can make it makes it, or once a month or whatever, some families might still do that. And if that is what you do, and that's your value, well, if somebody calls you to say, hey, you want to go to the Packers game? I should say Lions, we're in Detroit. You want to go to the Lions game? You're going to sit there and say, no, I would like to go, but no, I can't, because I have this commitment. Or if it's something you really want to do, then maybe you're going to go back to your family and maybe renegotiate for that one time. But that's an example about easy answers, easy life. Hard yes, easy. Oh, hard no, easy yes. But then also, I have this question. Sometimes, are we chasing what maybe we already have? Are we chasing what maybe we already have? You guys have probably, anyone who's on Facebook, you've probably heard this, is it a fable? About the story, I'm probably going to kill it a little bit. So bear with me on this a little bit. I'm probably not going to get it exactly right. But the story goes, there was this big weight CEO who went on a vacation to some Mexican village. And he saw this local who would go fishing every day. And then he would catch all of his fish, he would come back, and he would sit under the tree and take that nice siesta, okay? And so in doing that, the CEO came up to him and he said, hey, tell me about your business. What are you doing and all this kind of stuff? So he said, well, I wake up early in the morning and I go fishing, I come back, I sell it to the local merchants, and then I have my siesta and I go home to my family. And the CEO said, oh man, I could give you a business plan. He said, I can really help you. He said, if you just work a little bit harder, you can get a fleet of ships, and then you can get all of these employees to come and help you, and then you can just make millions, and then one day you can retire and live life how you want to. And the local said, isn't that what I'm already doing? So what are we chasing that maybe you already have? Think about that from an energy perspective, too. Periodic check-ins. I just got my size 9 up my rear just a couple of days ago. So this is another, it's called 6 Human Needs, and I think it's the number 6. If I'm wrong, spell 6 out. But 6humanneeds.com, killer quiz on that. Damn, is it good. It asks you, I think it's 82 or 84 questions, to have you determine what are your top 6 human needs, okay? And I do need to read these. Certainty, variety, significance, love and connection, growth, or contribution. Step out of the way so you guys can see it on the screen. And so this is another thing, depending on the work that I'm doing with a client, I will share this resource as well. So it's a great one. So I'm working with a person with mainly life coaching, and she owns a marketing company, and she's just totally unbalanced in her life. She has aging parents, dementia, she owns her own business, all this stuff. And so she's coming to me to find that balance in her life, and I'm like, oh my God, this will be the perfect quiz. Well, it's been years since I've taken this, okay? So I thought, oh, I'm going to take it too. So I took it Monday or Tuesday. And so my top 2 right now are growth and contribution. Well, I wasn't surprised by that at all. Because my growth, I told you I have a big, fat financial goal so I can become a philanthropist. And then I also, contribution, I'm a board member of 2 different nonprofits, and I give a lot to those, and many other things. And so I was not surprised by growth and contribution. So that sounds beautiful, right? Oh, beautiful, beautiful. But like everything, there's that shadow side. So I get this report back. And so it tells me all the great things about growth and contribution. But then it points out all the negative things with growth and contribution. And so for me, some of that is lack of self-care. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that. And then, even though family's important to me and I love my husband to pieces, I have probably pushed him to the back burner because I am working, doing this stuff. And I was like, wow. So it was, my own size 9 up my rear. I always say it's easier to kick someone else's butt, but it's harder, to kick our own. So that's why the image on there. But anyways, so the reason I'm sharing a lot of this stuff with you is not only, to keep coming back to how we can live intentionally, but I wanted to sprinkle this in with some great resources and thoughts for working with your clients, because they could be very helpful. Okay? And while we are here, think about, and we all have these 5, I know we do, because we wouldn't be in this room if we didn't possess these 5 qualities of people. But anyways, while we're here, we are going to learn fabulous new techniques. Hypnosis, NLP techniques. We're going to learn some great, great skills. And I know this probably goes without saying, but again, the reminders, like my reminder I had earlier this week with my foot. So when you go to these classes, think about how can this new skill I'm going to learn make me a better hypnotist, so that I can be living intentionally, so I can leave an impact, so I can leave value with these clients. And really think about it in that way. We're going to go to some classes that teach maybe some business things, growing your business. I know that's mine. I'm going to teach you how to do 3 different things that I'm not remembering right now without ad spend. Basically growing your business and things like that. So it's on Sunday, thank goodness. I don't have to think about it for a couple days. But we're going to go to business building courses this weekend. And so when you're going to those, really think about how can I utilize this information to build efficiency into my life. That efficiency that can help with your values, that efficiency that can help you to live intentionally. Because remember, at the beginning, when you guys shared your personal stories from the 3 questions, time really was at the root of every single thing. Time and attention was at the root of everything. And then how you left a person feeling. So how can we become a little more efficient in our businesses? And then while you're here, just kind of maybe pay attention too as we're having these conversations, formal or hallway conversations, to like just, in your mind, like, oh, you're an open-minded person. Ooh, you're passionate. I can feel that passion coming through you. Just kind of maybe pay attention to it. Because why not use this weekend to really hone in on this? Because then when we leave this beautiful community that we have here, we can, one, it's top of mind, so we're living it too. But also, it always increases that awareness. So I do have a sticker. I gave a keynote a couple of years ago, and I created stickers. My virtual assistant told me stickers are cool again. Yeah. So, and here's my original sticker that's been washed 100 times. So do with the sticker whatever you will. But can I have one so I can read it? Yeah. We'll hand it out to you at the end. So thank you, Buddha. I appreciate you. So I would like to encourage everybody to just have this top of mind. So whether you put this on your laptop, your water bottle, your coffee mug, whatever it might be. But I created a little acronym. So it's called Live Your Legacy Every Day with loving kindness, empowering yourself and others, demonstrating greatness. The G came last on that. Demonstrating greatness, authentically, living authentically, caring for yourself and others, and saying yes to life. And so the question is, who can benefit from your legacy today? Because I think that's what we're talking about at the end of the day, is legacy. Living intentionally is that legacy. A lot of times people think about legacy in terms of financial. But to me, legacy, in addition to finances, it can definitely be that. But to me, it is also the legacy of how you're going to make others feel, how you're going to be remembered. That's why I wanted to start today's session with that little sheet of paper there. And what I want to do, I didn't know I'd have a microphone, so I'm going to do this the best I can. So now, and I think I'm good on time, right? Yes. No, I'll be okay. I'm multi-talented. You guys will see that here in just a second. So, I love visuals. What are we laughing at? What? I know. I should get this on the thing.
Nobody's laughing, Connie.
Right.
They're not laughing at you.
I'm laughing with you. So, I love demonstrations. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I go to Wishope, I open up every session with a great demonstration for them, and they love it because that's can be memorable. So I'm actually going to end this one with a demonstration.
Ouch.
Well, this is easy. So, all of us can easily slice this apple open and see how many seeds are inside of this apple, which isn't many. But nobody, get out of there. Stupid seed. Nobody can tell you how many apples will come from this seed. So, back to my farmer dad and planting seeds. What seeds do you plant in your life? Who do you plant them for? And who will you become once it's harvest season for you? Okay? With that, I will conclude and we will have stickers for you. So, thank you very much.